just heard that the FDA had given approval to move forward with the new vaccine. That's so exciting. So that's just terrific, and that we have you here today. Mike Friedlander, Dr. Friedlander, who's the executive director of the Fralin Biomedical Research Institute at Virginia Tech, where he's also the vice president for health sciences and technology. And Mike, great to see you as well. And then David Manfredi, who's the CEO and founding principal of Elkus Manfredi Architects. And David, thank you as well. So I'm just thrilled that there's so many people that are interested in this project and what we're doing. And I want to go back and talk about why. Now, I'm the CEO at Children's National Hospital. I've been in that role for about 10 years. And I was a pediatric surgeon at Children's National in Washington, D.C., a big independent children's hospital that's been around for 150 years. So what I'm going to cover here in the beginning is how the project came to fruition. And you've already seen who some of our campus partners are. And then we'll also be talking about some of the project challenges. And then I'll close with a few minutes about the future of this campus. And we'll have a few minutes at the end for some questions. So if I could have the next slide, please. In the middle of 2010s, we had been looking for a while at Children's to expand our research, but also to create more space on our main clinical campus because of our growth. Our research enterprise was growing, our clinical enterprise was growing, and we were pretty much landlocked right there in the center of the District of Columbia. We serve this whole region and are serving it well. We're a top 10 children's hospital. We're number one in neonatal care, for example. But we needed more land and room. And it was very clear to our team that they wanted to stay close to the hospital. So we really, by some serendipity, discovered an ideal location for the first pediatric research and innovation campus. So this is totally focused on children and their needs. Because the Walter Reed Army Medical Center was being decommissioned, part of the base closing commission. It's not far from the hospital. It's 3 or 4 miles. And that land was becoming available to the District of Columbia. And with the district's ambitions and the leadership for our city, we believed that location would make a lot of sense. And if we just go back a slide, please. Because what you see there is the proximity to the FDA, to the NIH, to the biohealth capital region. And then Michael is going to be talking about what's happening in Northern Virginia with Virginia Tech. So we were right, this location was right in the sweet spot for all of these things. The district in our biohealth region is 3rd or 4th in the biohealth race across the country. And we were able to create a great partnership with the District of Columbia and all of the things that I talked about. So the idea was to create this research and innovation campus, move Children's National's research enterprise out there, find other partners to work with us, and then that would allow clinical expansion on the main clinical campus. So next slide, please. So how do you go about getting the Department of Defense to turn over its land and buildings to a children's hospital? Well, there was no playbook. There was no menu. But I think what happened was that the Department of the Army really saw the value in having Children's National as a partner and receiving some of the land. The buildings that we got, particularly the main building, had always been military research, Army research, the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. Plus, it's hallowed ground. There are so many soldiers that were cared for there and treated, so many people trained on this campus, so much research done, that the Army felt that they loved the idea of giving some of the land and some of the buildings, not all of it, to Children's National. So we approached the Base Realignment and Closure Commission, and they were very supportive. We worked with the Congress, the House Armed Services Committee, Eleanor Holmes Norton, our representative, other senators, Senator Van Hollen, to draft legislation that would allow the Army to hand off this part of the land. The district received approximately 60 acres for commercial development. We received 12 acres, and the State Department received 25 acres for their needs. So it was really important to the Army also to maintain this healthcare focus. So the legislation got passed to allow them to negotiate directly with us. The president signed the legislation, and our plans began to take shape. Now, we knew we wanted to have partners. And the District of Columbia was going to be a major partner. And we began looking at who was best in class in terms of an accelerator, a innovation partner that could really work alongside our research. And that's where Johnson & Johnson Innovation, and J Labs came in. And the district supported us in beginning conversations with the with Johnson & Johnson Innovation about bringing them to this campus. We also believed that we wanted an academic partner besides our own research, and that's where Virginia Tech came in. We'd had a long-standing relationship with Virginia Tech. So we went to work, and in 2016, the land was deeded over to Children's National, and there you see the groundbreaking that took place. Next slide, please. So we're now nearing completion of this campus, and this is what it looks like now. This is a rendering. And we've been working with David Manfredi and his team all along to plot out this vision. One of the things that was good about this was that we could begin very quickly because we could renovate these buildings as opposed to new buildings that would require new zoning. And I'll get to that later about our future plans. But what you're seeing here in just an overall schematic, and this is just about to open. In fact, some of it's open. But in the back corner is a 1,000-space parking garage with, it's got the solar panels on the top. We're giving the electricity back to the neighborhoods there. In the bottom corner is an old clinic building that was used by the Army that's been totally refurbished, and historically is just gorgeous, and I hope David talks about that. In the middle is a conference center. It was the old Army Post Theater that's been spectacularly renovated. And then the main building, the research building there in the back, 54, which is where the first phase of the research is going to take place, and where J Labs and Children's National Research and Virginia Tech will be. If I could have the next slide, please. We were able to keep the construction going. The mayor deemed it an essential business. And so you see some of the building 52, the clinic building I mentioned, lots of historical preservation work done there. And you see the clinic rooms. There's a rare disease institute in there. Primary care. There's no primary care at that part of the city, for example. And so people are moving, and actually patients are being seen now in that clinic. The next slide will show you the auditorium that's been brought back to life, supported by Boeing. Philanthropy was a big part of developing this campus, 3,200 square feet. And state-of-the-art, Dolby made a nice contribution as well for the sound system there. Next slide, please. And the final building is building 54. This is the research building. It's in progress, been totally turned around. The back became the front, and David will give us some ideas there. And I think Sally's going to show us some of the things that J Labs is bringing to that. It will also host the Virginia Tech Biomedical Research Facility, and Mike will talk to us about that. So we're building this ecosystem, all focused on pediatric research. There'll be, as I've said, Children's National Research. I think we're number 7 in the country in terms of children's hospitals and NIH research. We just got the biggest grant we've ever gotten from the NIH, the NIAID, to study the impact on children over long term from the COVID-19, a $40 million grant. So this research is real, but we also wanted to be thoughtful about how we can bring that to market. And that's where Johnson & Johnson Innovation and J-Labs comes in. So I'm going to bring Sally into this now. And I think we can advance the slide. Sally, I've got two questions, and then certainly I'm sure you've got some ideas you want to bring to the audience. But first, why did J-Labs, you've got a number of J-Labs around the country, around the world, Johnson & Johnson Innovation. Why did you choose to locate at Children's National Research and Innovation Campus right here in Washington, D.C.? What drew you to that? And second, as you're working to recruit companies to J-Labs at Washington, D.C., what is Johnson & Johnson Innovation looking for in these companies? And what does this site offer company prospects?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt, and thanks for including us. I think to highlight first, this collaboration marks the second time that Johnson & Johnson and Children's National has teamed up, really to emphasize the importance of investing in health and the well-being of children around the world. We were in partnership and still are on Safe Kids Worldwide. So one, the idea that we can be a part of this incredibly important research and innovation campus focused on the need for more science and technology and innovation around pediatrics was front of mind for us. But when we also think about this location and this innovation campus, first, you showed an really, I think, impactful map of the location of this campus. So when we think about entrepreneurs and early stage startups, the idea that we can support and incubate companies on this research innovation campus and be down the street from the FDA and the NIH is incredibly strategic. And when we look at where we want to put Johnson & Johnson Innovation, and especially our J-Lab sites, with this being our 13th around the world, we're looking for ecosystems where innovation is thriving, where you see venture capital investment, where you see top talent in the region and top research academic institutes, federal institutes for the DMV region. And so this location hits on all of that for Johnson & Johnson Innovation. It's the strength of academic institutes like Virginia Tech and those within Washington, D.C. So that's what brought us to the Research and Innovation Campus, a strong partnership with Children's National, the opportunity for the strategic location, and then the idea that we can incubate companies and be able to move their science and technology at an accelerated pace. And that's what Johnson & Johnson Innovation J-Labs does. So what we're looking for are companies that are strategically aligned. So are they working on a science, technology, a medical device that is going to solve a problem for a patient and consumer need? So we think of pediatrics and bringing to light the need for more innovation in the space. And we want to provide them with an infrastructure so that companies can put their money towards their research and development rather than having to afford expensive research equipment or expensive footprints. So we provide the infrastructure, the wet lab research space, the office space. We provide access to capital equipment, basically providing big company benefits to entrepreneurs and early stage companies. And we also create this ecosystem at every place where we land. So within this building, the idea that we all get to cross-pollinate together. We have entrepreneurs and early stage companies working to collaborate and connect, and working with Children's National Research Institutes, working with academic partners at Virginia Tech to move science forward is such a huge opportunity as well. So I think we have a couple of slides. We can show some renderings of the JLab space, and we can move this forward. So, at all of our JLabs locations, and especially this one too, we provide such a modern environment, world-class research lab space that's modular, so that we can really meet companies where they're at. If companies want an individual footprint for a bench space, they want private labs. If they want access to tissue cell culture labs, chemistry labs, prototyping for medical device innovation, and then also providing conference rooms and that people can access to meet with investors, to meet with those in the external space. We can keep moving through the slides. So this just gives you an idea of this collaborative space that we'll have within Building 54. Part of our mission is to drive programming and collaboration and pull together experts and key leaders in science and innovation. And we'll be doing that here in Building 54.
Sally, one of the things that struck me when I first met the Johnson & Johnson innovation team, and then toured a couple of the J Labs and had a chance to meet some of the CEOs of the startup companies, I'd say to them, well, what would you think about if you were located in a place where in the same day you could visit with the FDA, then you could go over to the NIH, then maybe you needed to stop in at the patent office, maybe you had a meeting down on the Hill to talk about some regulatory thing or the Department of Defense, and then maybe you were interested in finding out what reimbursement was going to be like, and you could go over to CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, and find that out all in one day in Washington, D.C., if that was possible. And every single one of them, they just thought, oh my gosh, and be located next door, or one floor away. And then you're showing these collaborative scenarios with genetic researchers, pediatric researchers. But you've also been bringing in some other potential partners. And could you just give a comment on the Blue Knight collaboration with BARDA?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, right? The idea that companies can engage in this location with so many incredible strategic partnerships or regulatory agencies, patient foundations that have offices in DC is amazing. And you recognized a partnership that we've also put in place. So when we announced we'd be moving in with Children's National, the Research Innovation Campus, we announced a public-private partnership with BARDA, the Biomedical Advanced Research Authority under the Department of Health and Human Services. And this partnership is to incubate companies. The hub will be here at JLabs at Washington, D.C., and these companies will be working on the science and technology needs for BARDA. So we think of responding to the next pandemic. How can BARDA put even faster partnerships in place to respond to, the next infectious disease, the next pandemic, have technology and solutions already in their pipeline that they can quickly commercialize with a partner and support the health of the United States population. So we're incredibly proud of that unique partnership, and it will be hubbed in a hub and spoke model from Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Sally. I know you're really excited. You've already picked a few companies that are going to be there, and we're very close to the opening. So we look forward to just a tremendous set of partnerships and collaborations. I'd like to turn now to Dr. Friedlander, Mike Friedlander. So, Mike, Virginia Tech. We think of Virginia Tech in Southwest Virginia, but that's not so true anymore. And so why did Virginia Tech choose to, one of the great research universities here in the United States, choose to locate at the Children's National Research and Innovation Campus. And secondly, then to get a little more specific, if you could then talk about, you're really well known for your brain research, your brain tumor research, and you'll be collaborating now with Children's National, which has a pediatric brain cancer research, one of the terrible cancers for children. How have you thought about your space and how the teams will work on that and the best ways to facilitate collaboration?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Kurt, for the opportunity to be here. And, the short and simple answer to your first question, why Virginia Tech wants to be up there with Children's National, is right in the question. It's Children's National. We have had, as you mentioned, a long-standing collaborative relationship between Virginia Tech and Children's National, a productive one that's resulted in grants, patents, publications, people working together. And if anything is important, as we all know, it's the culture and ethos of the people that work together between institutions, and it's just a wonderful and natural fit. So that's a primary reason. In addition to that, as you know, and as this slide shows a little bit related to what you said, you can see the red circles indicating the mothership campus, of course, of Virginia Tech down in Blacksburg, and then next to it, the Health Science Campus in Roanoke, Virginia, and then up, of course, near D.C., the growing presence of Virginia Tech. We've been there quite a while, but as shown in the pictures on the right, the third picture down is the new campus at Potomac Yards in Alexandria plans for the buildings for Virginia Tech, and that in partnership with Amazon is giving Virginia Tech an increasing major presence with $1 billion investment in the D.C. area. And that also offers an opportunity to triangulate between what's going on here on the main Virginia Tech campus in Blacksburg and the Medical Center campus in Roanoke, and our new campus in Alexandria focusing on computer science, computer engineering, to tie in with the research at Children's National. We all know the importance of informatics, data analytics, new tools, data visualization, whether we're studying genetic information or behavior or imaging, whatever it might be. So this is a great opportunity for Virginia Tech to grow this footprint and the presence in the D.C. area, particularly partnering with Children's. And then, of course, as we just heard from Sally, so much of what we do at Virginia Tech results in translation and or commercialization. If you go to the next slide, for example, I can show you some examples. So you see on the left, for example, that Virginia Tech has a lot of major corporate partners already. I won't go through them. Many of them are leading companies, of course, in the United States and the world. We see opportunities to grow that. And then over on the right, you see some examples of our biotechnology spinoff companies coming out of Virginia Tech in the last few years. A number of those are located here at the Medical Center campus in Roanoke. Several others are from the main Blacksburg campus. But what an opportunity for our researchers who are just absolutely dead set on taking their discoveries out of the lab, translating them, commercializing them, and bringing them to the public for the good. This is an incredible opportunity to be proximal to the J-Labs program as well, and tying in with Sally and her team. So for us, it's really a special opportunity and a unique one that aligns very nicely with the strategy and strategic plan for tech in the future. And then if I just quickly show the last slide I had there, this one shows the space in Building 54, as you just showed us. We're very excited to see our name and our logo on one of the doors coming into the research space. You can see the labs. There's still some work going on. They're not quite as glitzy yet as the J-Lab pictures we saw, but they're on their way to that as they finish off. And this is very flexible, adaptable research space that suits our investigators very well. And then the next slide is the last slide, I believe, just to focus on the topic you mentioned, Kurt. We could collaborate in many areas with Children's, and we do. It could be cardiovascular disease, it could be brain development, behavior development, a variety of types of cancers, infectious disease. And of course, we want to be in all those spaces with Children's. But one of the areas we are really focused on at Virginia Tech now and growing, and it's a perfect opportunity, is in pediatric brain cancers. And as this slide says here, you, of course, know at Children's National, you have world-class pediatric oncology teams. I mentioned Roger Packer there is doing pioneering work with technologies like focused ultrasound to treat this. And then in the middle, I highlight something very important to the scientific and medical community. This is from a recent publication from our researchers here at Virginia Tech in Cancer Cell, and it refers to the fact that in pets, in animals such as dogs, brain tumors called gliomas are extremely similar to what we see in the human pediatric population. So we can learn from the genetics, the molecular signatures, etc. And we have a College of Veterinary Medicine here at Virginia Tech and a large oncology research center around veterinary medicine as well. And we can tie those things together and learn from each other in this, what we call whole health, integrating human and animal medicine with a particular focus on pediatrics.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's just an awesome vision to think about the partnership, the three-way partnership we're talking about just right here today. And I know there's going to be so many future ones with the startup companies, with BARDA, and lots of things into the future where great discoveries are going to happen. And you just think about those researchers being close to the NIH and collaborating there, or working with the FDA if there's drugs or different things, devices that need to be approved. And, I know everybody just can't wait to get started. Now, I want to go back a little bit because we've been talking about the future and all the exciting things and how people are going to work together and all of that. But I know there's a lot of people in the audience are very interested in what David Manfredi is going to talk about. Well, what were the challenges? Here these guys are giving you this legacy campus and building, a set of buildings. The Army's involved. There's so many agencies looking at this. And David, there was a question in the chat about renovation versus just demolishing and starting over. But given all of these challenges, how did you think about it in terms of a design and engineering perspective? Taking these historic buildings and then turning them into, to accommodate Sally Elaine and her vision for J-Labs, or Mike Friedlander and his vision for Virginia Tech or Children's National's research. Could you talk about some of the challenges that you and your team faced?
Sure, and thank you for the invitation, Kurt, to be here today and the opportunity to work with you over the last 2.5 years. I think hearing Sally and Mike is really the fulfillment of the original vision, which was that this was not singular purpose. This was not about only Children's National. It was, and Sally used the word, it was about creating an ecosystem of similar, like-minded research endeavors at an institutional level, at a private enterprise level, and about creating an environment where people come together. And we live in a world today of open innovation, where multidisciplinary endeavors lead to real acceleration in science. Now, as you mentioned, Building 54, which we're seeing on the screen right now, was the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. It was completed in 1955, dedicated by President Eisenhower during the height of the Cold War. In the entire building, that building you see in the center, you're seeing the beginning of renovation, but that entire building was 18 to 24 inches of cast-in-place concrete with no windows. Not a few windows, no windows, to withstand a nuclear blast. And it is also, as is many of the buildings at Walter Reed, it is a landmark building. We petitioned the DC Historic Preservation Office. We worked with them for many months to allow us to cut some windows, to allow daylight into the building. I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is in process then. This is now, this film is probably almost a year old. And you can see the windows cutting through 24 inches of concrete to create windows sympathetic to the pattern of the original cast-in-place concrete. And you're about to see a very quick time lapse of how that all got done, but really transformed that building. And the building to the left is what we call 54X, which was a later addition designed by Edward Durrell Stone. And together they make up the research components of the campus. And now you can see it, basically a current photograph of Building 54. If you go to the next slide, I've got a terrifying photo here in the next slide. This is a photograph from May of 2019, and it is at the height of demolition in Building 54. And the point is simply this. We demolished and rebuilt and reimagined everything on in the infrastructure of these buildings. They are completely modern buildings. Today, you saw the auditorium, the clinic. This is the research building. Every bit of infrastructure came out of those buildings, and it was rebuilt within that envelope. And much of the envelope, as you can see, was renovated as well. And it means a whole new system of power, of air capacity, of lab utilities, of new heating and cooling plant. In many ways, they are brand new buildings. If you go to the next slide, this is the same slide that Dr. Newman showed at the very beginning. You can see that we really thought about this from the very beginning as a campus that was coherent, that created places for people to come together. It is today, or will be in the next 6 months, a 21st century multi-tenanted, multi-building campus for combination of institutional, academic, and commercial research. We believe it is also a cohesive campus with important outdoor space where diverse groups of people will come together, from patients to researchers to visitors, from the academic world and from the commercial world as well. And that represents a mix of uses that really is important, as was mentioned before. It is the marriage of academic research and commercialization. It is what brings all of this to our doorsteps and to improve our lives. And I'm gonna lead into your final slide, Dr. Newman, with significant expansion for capacity that can only enhance the ecosystem and enhance the mix of different kinds of tenants here. And I think that's really a key component from the original vision, that this is not single purpose, it's not single tenant. It benefits from the interaction of all of these different entities, Virginia Tech, J&J, obviously Children's National, and all of the future partners to come.
Thank you, David, and you and your team have just done a spectacular job of rethinking and working with all the different agencies that have been involved in terms of preservation, the National Park Service, and so many different entities. One of the questioners, it was why renovation versus just starting over, and a lot of that had to do with the history. But also it had to do with this had not really been zoned because it was a government thing. So we didn't need to, for renovation, go to the district and then engage all of the communities and so forth in order we could move. So it was speed to the market too to get really going. And the District of Columbia has been great partners with that. The other thing you mentioned I want to highlight is that this is part of what I would call we've been calling it a campus, but it's really part of a zone or part of a crescent. If you think about all the different innovation and initiatives that are going across the District of Columbia up into Maryland and over into Virginia. And I think there's a great opportunity. I know there's a lot of work being done to think about Washington, D.C. and the DMV in a different way because of all the potential investment that can happen. We were beneficiaries, and David, you helped us a lot with this because we could also, because of the way we were approaching the project, get new market tax credits. We could get historic tax credits, and that financing was very beneficial. The other thing we have been emphasizing is that Children's National is the second largest private employer in the Washington, D.C., 8,000 employees. And this is a beautiful live, work type and play type situation. What you can't really see is the location of this part of the campus and a bigger development that's going on called the Parks at Walter Reed. Hines and Urban Atlantic, terrific partners, thinking about how to make the retail space, the living space, the development on there seamlessly fit so that people can work at our campus, but live just right across the way. So it's been terrific. So just talking about the future, I did want to give the audience maybe whet their appetite if I could have the next slide. Because quietly during the pandemic, we did work with the community. We worked with the DC Zoning Commission and actually got the first zoning for our part of the campus done. And it was a unanimous approval. And you see some of these are sketches of what could be there, more than 1 million square feet of additional research space and buildings. And we're very excited to move forward with those ideas. It's also noteworthy that this is in an opportunity zone that was created by federal legislation. I think it's the only one on this side in the district on the west side of the Anacostia River. I may have that wrong, but there's just an incredible opportunity for that. David, would you expand a little bit on how we're thinking about that?
Well, you can see that what we're planning and what has now been entitled is a series of additional buildings that will be research for both academic as well as commercial partners that on the south, on the east, and on the north. And in this rendering, it probably looks quite dense, but I'll explain that. We fully believe that science really thrives on collaboration. We live in a world of multi-platform, multidisciplinary research, and that collaboration thrives on proximity and the opportunity to bring together, to manage an ecosystem of different sizes and scale, to have the important biopharmaceuticals, but the startups and the accelerators that feed the ecosystem from the bottom, as well as the biopharmaceuticals from the top, can make this really a hub of innovation. And you'll notice also, you see the label for residential. You can't quite see it, but on the north side, because we abut a residential neighborhood, the idea is to actually build some residential apartments that are directly across the street from that neighborhood as an act of being a good neighbor, but also to your point of making a place that is not single purpose, where you can live here. You have the opportunity of the retail, the restaurants next door, and there is another 1 million square feet of development to come, which will only make this a more rich and diverse place for all kinds of science.
And it's a really vibrant, even beyond the Parks at Walter Reed campus, it's a very vibrant community. And Silver Spring, downtown Silver Spring's not far away. Downtown Washington, D.C. is not far away. There's great public transportation. And so it's, really exciting for us. So now we're kind of finishing up this first phase. And we're already thinking about the next phase. So it's game on. You'll be seeing, we'll be posting the different email addresses for contacts if you have ideas or want to learn more about what we're thinking about in the future. And, I think we may have a few minutes for questions. And
Kurt, I see one came in. Question on how much abatement, if any, was needed in building number 54.
I can answer that. It was very, very extensive. It was months and months and months of abatement. And you can imagine all of that mechanical equipment you saw and all of the insulation around all of that mechanical equipment. We had nothing outside of normal toxicity, but in terms of the pervasiveness, abatement went on for many, many months. And the earlier question about what was the cost differential between renovation and building new, it's probably not nearly as much as most people would think. But as Dr. Newman said, the advantage was time. Well, first of all, the buildings are landmarked, so you weren't going to tear the buildings down. We had a hospital ward, we had the post-cinema and theater, and we had the landmarked research buildings. So we weren't going to tear the buildings down, and we had the benefit of being able to start very quickly and put all of these tenants in place very quickly.
And to that point, David, I think there's a lot of emotion around this site. People that I've talked to, everybody knows somebody that was treated in the Walter Reed Army Medical Center, or maybe did their training there. There's just this devotion to the site. It, has been there as a research and medical enterprise for 100 years. So to have the opportunity, in fact, Walter Reed, his whole thing was fighting another pandemic, yellow fever. So it was named after the Army doctor. So there's this sense of tradition and really respecting that tradition that kind of, and you team as architects and designers really enhance that. When I walk around there now and see the exposed brick and the detail and the original, some of the original things that happened, the parking garage named after a general who died, General Rumbaugh. There's that just sense of kind of honoring something that's really, really important that I love. I think we're close to time. I'm going to come back to Sally, though, because she always gets me excited when I ask her this, because there's always a new company that they may have picked, or an outreach that they're doing to bring in new companies. And maybe could you just give us a little taste of what's happening in the next few months, the companies that you've selected and are moving in, the kind of things they're working on?
Yeah, I'd love to give a quick highlight. So, thanks to moving the construction forward during the pandemic, we're so fortunate that we're able to open the doors at the end of March and start moving companies in. We've been able to highlight a few pediatric companies, a spin out from Children's National, Algometrics, a couple of local companies within the DMV. One is Congruence Medical, who's working on microliter device. So microliter syringes. So you think of the importance of accuracy in oncology. We've got international companies that are certainly interested in landing at this innovation campus, both an expansion from a U.S. subsidiary perspective, but also for running clinical trials in the United States and that proximity. We have companies with our Blue Knight collaboration working in infectious disease. We've got a company coming in on the East Coast who's really on the forefront of looking at how we can do better in clinical trial diversity. So, there's a wide breadth of companies that are coming in and early stage startups.
Well, thank you for that, Sally. I know the audience and the speakers probably have to move on to the next thing. I'm just honored that I had such a great panel to work with me today. And if you want to learn more about the campus, you can visit childrensnational.org/RIC. The RIC is for Research and Innovation Campus. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and learning more about the Children's National Research and Innovation Campus. And like I said, the emails are available. And I want to thank our hosts and this just terrific conference and the opportunity to bring something really special to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.